We are here today to learn about and focus on custom integrations in HubSpot. Okay, so if that is what you're interested in, you are in the right place. So the main focus is going to be go back here, the 3 ways that we can do it and how you can make a decision around those 3 ways that you can do custom integrations, right? And so, but before we get into that, we'll do quick intros. So I know a lot of you, but if we haven't met before, I'm one of the co-founders at Digital Reach. If you worked with me and talked to me before, you know that I love automations. I love integrations, connecting systems, automating processes, making our clients' lives easier when they're working. That's my goal, and I love doing it with the team that we work with. And one of those people on our team is Basho. So Basho, you saw him at the beginning, and Basho has over 10 years of experience in development across a number of different systems. He works with the HubSpot product teams as they're rolling out more developer tools. And so he understands ways to work with HubSpot that he's teaching me every single day, because the platform can do more than most of us who are maybe not full stack developers or haven't spent a ton of time exploring the development capabilities. We might not know what the platform is capable of. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Okay. So focus, HubSpot built for purpose with custom integration. So we have a blog. Why are we talking about this? Is because it's important to teams to connect their systems for a variety of reasons that we'll go over. So Karen Nichols is going to go ahead and share a blog here that we published a couple weeks ago on what stops top ops teams from integrating their tech stack. So if you want to go ahead and click on that, then you can check that out now or later. Depends on what your interest is. Okay, so let's talk really quickly before we jump into what the options are and how to assess them. Why are custom integrations important to begin with, right? Like, why do they matter? So I would love to see in the chat anything that comes to mind for you as an attendee as to why custom integrations matter, right? So why we think they're important is they keep data updated across your systems. They add functionality to both applications by extending the functionality of one system to another. And if anyone's ever developed a CRM card or used an application that has CRM cards, like OrgChart Hub or Arrows, some of the popular ones that are out there, Kixie, you'll see how we can really, the LinkedIn integration, we can extend functionality, right? And they drive automation between the systems that are integrated, and they reduce manual tasks and human errors. And absolutely, sometimes, Anita, we get totally new possibilities that each system alone aren't capable of, but when you put them together with a custom integration, that we can do amazing things. So some examples, right? So let's say we've worked with NetSuite as an integration quite a bit. And so NetSuite is a popular tool, and while it has a native integration, it doesn't meet the needs of all HubSpot users. And so if you want to automatically sync transactions, sales receipts, etc., you're going to have to use a custom integration to do that. All right. Similarly, a lot of you probably work with, if you're in a niche industry, let's say financial services, there are a lot of niche softwares, right? And while they're great for things like managing financial plans, they might not be great for integrating with every CRM out there. And while a lot of companies are giving more attention to HubSpot, we still have more to grow as far as the native integrations in the app library. And so custom integrations are often needed to reduce those manual tasks. But I love some of the use cases that y'all shared. I'm going to go ahead and move on. So now that we know why they're important, how do we go about evaluating if you even need one, right? So for those of you who are working on it, maybe, or evaluating an integration right now, how many of you, by a show of hands, are unsure if you even need a custom integration right now, right? How many of you aren't sure if that's what you need? So if you're not sure if you need a custom integration, then exactly, this is how we're going to evaluate them. And you know what? I missed one of the polls, Karen. So if you could please share that poll, we have a poll for you coming out as well, as far as the types of integrations that you've worked on. So go ahead and check that out, right? Have you ever built any custom integrations into HubSpot before? All right, so how do we evaluate if we need a custom integration? Let's take it step by step. First thing, we're going to see if a native integration exists, all right? And it could be in the app library, or it could be in the integrating tools interface, all right? There are some tools where the integration is managed from the integrating app side, not HubSpot. So a tool like Fundraise Up, for example, if you're not in the nonprofit space, that's managed from the Fundraise Up side, all right? If there is a native integration, check out the sync direction. Is the integration action data actionable in workflows? So do we get some new triggers, some new actions? Can we have custom property mapping? Is it going to manage associations? What is going to be the extended functionality within HubSpot? For example, something like Kixie, when we integrate Kixie, we now have a power dialer that gets overlaid into HubSpot so that our reps don't have to leave HubSpot when they're dialing, right? So that's extending the functionality. But I want to go ahead and check out really quickly because I think that it's a great example of where you might have a native integration and but a custom integration is still needed. So when you check out an integration, right, we can see the sync, we can see what the integration is intended to do, and then we can see what data gets shared, right? And so if you look at this NetSuite integration, it's very easy to evaluate and see that we are not going to be able to sync certain things and certain pieces of data, and we can see what the sync is intended to do. So if you need to create functionality beyond this, while there is a native integration, a custom integration is still going to be required. Okay, so now I'm just going to share here. What we do next is we look at the API documentation, right? So the API documentation is going to let us know whether a unidirectional or bidirectional sync is possible, okay? It's going to let us know whether we can create records, delete records, look them up and update them, associate them, all of those fun things. So we look at the API documentation. And what I'd love to know, we have another poll. Have you ever researched a custom integration or integration in general for your HubSpot? I'd love to know who out there has actually done some research on this before, because I see that about half of you who answered the poll have built custom integrations before, which is super exciting. I'm very happy to hear that and happy to have you here. All right. So then if we see that we can build the integration, then we want to go ahead and map our process and data flow, map our properties, and go live, right? So this is just a simple diagram, an example of a simple custom integration or a component of one that we worked on. All right. So now that we have gone through all of that, we're finally ready to talk about what the options are. All right. So when do we need a custom integration? Just like we've gone over, it's when the native integration doesn't accomplish what we need it to, or it doesn't offer enough functionality. Okay. So what are our options at a high level? And what I'd love to hear from the audience, we have another poll. I know we keep asking you questions because we want to know what it is that you're working on in HubSpot and what you've done before, and be able to provide relevant information. So we see that 10 of you have done custom and native integrations, a couple of you native only. All right, awesome. So we have another poll coming. What methods have you used to build a custom integration with HubSpot? And so these are the options that we have at a very high level. And I have them broken down in a way that's going to make it easy for those of us with technical experience and those of us without technical experience to be on the same page, right? So we have an iPaaS, that's an integration platform as a service. We have a server-based solution. So that could be on your more traditional server that uses PHP. It could be on a cloud-based server like Azure or AWS that uses Node.js. And then we have the Operations Hub with custom coded workflows, okay? And then we're going to zoom in on this image a little bit more. And you're going to see in the left-hand side, Karen Nichols is going to go ahead and share this graphic so you can have this if you would like as well. But this graphic, what we're looking at here, right, is I break it down by API capabilities, whether we have to manage the environment or not, and if we have to write code or not, right? That's what we're looking at. So when we're looking at an iPaaS, right, so the APIs for the most part are already going to be built in for you. Now, sometimes they allow you to integrate a tool that isn't already integrated in some of the more expensive enterprise iPaaS solutions, right? But for those of you who've used iPaaSes before, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Zapier and you've used that in the past, right? And so, all right. So then when we look at our iPaaS, the API is already connected, the environment, right? So we're talking about the file structure, your endpoint, setting up how you're going to reference information to run your audit, to run your integration, right? All of that is already done for you in the iPaaS. You don't have to manage the environment, okay? And then it is a point and click interface. You don't have to write code. When we have a server-based solution, you're actually building, you're creating the API environments. You're creating the file structure and the reference for your integration. You're writing the code. So you have the ultimate amount of flexibility and control here and scalability. Operations Hub is somewhere kind of in between a server-based and an iPaaS type solution, okay? Because you can build your entire integration into the custom coded workflow itself. And that makes it almost like a PaaS, which is a platform as a service, where we have more flexibility in the coding languages that we use, but we have a more standardized environment and less development work that we have to do. Now, you can, within HubSpot, using CRM development, develop your environment more to be more robust for a more complex integration, so that you're not having to build that into the custom coded workflows, especially for things like authentication tokens that can expire. All right. So we do have ways that we can develop the environment in the Operations Hub as well. So that's giving you the high level of how all this works. So now let's talk very quickly about APIs because then I'm going to go ahead. We're 15 minutes in. I want to make sure that we're done with this in the next 15 minutes so that we have time to answer your questions. Okay. So we've talked about APIs a lot. So do APIs and integrations make a little bit more sense to you now if they did not before this webinar started? So we have a poll, another poll coming over to ask you that question. But here's what I'm going to say about APIs. Essentially what they do is they're giving the set of permission, the permission set and the definition for accessing data within that system, right? When it can be accessed, how it can be accessed, how much it can be accessed, how it can be manipulated when it comes back in the system, if new data can come into the system from an outside system at all, right? So API documentation is important though, because not all API documentation is created equal, all right? So for some of you who have worked with APIs before, some of them have incredible documentation where it's very clear exactly what's possible, right? And I'm going to give you a really quick example of what I think is great API documentation. And the reason I say that is because I am not a full stack developer, but I can look at the quotes overview and the endpoints, and I understand what you can do with quotes. I understand that using the API, if we are able to trigger the actions, that we can actually choose the associations, that we can choose the quote template, that we can publish the quote, we can do all sorts of things with the quote API. So this would give me an idea of what we would be able to develop based on the API for HubSpot. Okay. So I'm not going to spend any more time in API documentation. We're going to have another webinar in a few weeks where we go deeper into the technical how-to for those of you who know more than I do and are more on Bash Show's page. But if you do have questions, I encourage you again to keep those going in the chat. All right. So now let's dig a little bit deeper. How are we going to evaluate the different options? So we're going to evaluate them based on how they work, the cost drivers, skills required to use them, sustainability of the tool, tools that you already own, the capabilities of each tool, and the complexity of your integration, okay? And we have an ebook about this that you're going to be the first people to get your hands on because we just published this. So you can go ahead and grab that. We're going to share that in a couple of slides, but this is what our evaluation criteria is going to be. And so we're going to evaluate this for each and every one of the options that we shared before. So we're going to start with the iPaaS option, okay? So who here has experience with iPaaS tools? We're going to have a poll for this, or feel free to go ahead and raise your hand in the chat. But if you use iPaaS tools, here is what makes these platforms great. Literally, if you can chart out the most complex conditional logic between two apps that have a robust connection with Zapier, you can create an insanely complex, advanced automation. You can leverage tables. There are so many things. You can delay actions. The workflow power and the automation power of Zapier, and they just rolled out some new updates, is amazing, right? Like, you don't have to have any coding skills whatsoever. You just have to understand apps, how they work, and the conditional logic, and you can create some super advanced, awesome automations. They come, Zapier has a free version for 1 or 2 step zaps, and then they have a paid version that starts at like $29 or $39.99 a month. It is super accessible. Or you have more enterprise tools like Trade.io and Workato. Okay. And so what I want to take a look at really quickly is just how much you can do with Zapier, right? So when we say that you can do a lot in a Zap, this is a Zap that managed business processes that we were sharing between ourselves and another company that created projects, checked to see if they were completed, created new projects after setup was done and the retainer services began, communicated in HubSpot and Slack between organizations. And all of this was done in a point-and-click interface that anybody can manage, even if they don't have any coding experience. And so that's what they offer. That's what makes them great, right? Now, here's when we're evaluating whether it's the right option for you. So we've explained how they work. The API is already connected. The environment's already built. What you have to do is you have to actually create the solution, right? You have to be the one to decide what the solution is, okay? So they work in a point-and-click interface. You choose your app, you authenticate, get yourself logged in, you choose your trigger, you choose your actions, you choose your conditions, right? Zapier has native functionality. All of these tools have native functionality for formatting data, for delaying actions, etc. Right? So you can just, if you can dream it, you can build it pretty much. Cost drivers, right? This is where the decision-making process gets interesting because, like I said, Zapier starts at a very low price each month. But the thing is, every single step, so that big zap that I showed, every single step of that zap runs what is called a task. You are billed based on tasks. So if I ran that zap 2,000 times a month, it would not make sense for me to use Zapier because Zapier would become a very expensive solution, all right? Workato and Trade.io and other tools, they bill in different ways, but they bill you based on the number of workflows you want to build, how often they're going to run, and really they're controlling the API calls and the load that you're putting on their server, right? And so looking at how many workflows you're going to build and how often they're going to run, what their API load is going to be is going to help you decide which platform actually makes the most sense from a cost standpoint, okay? Then we also have skills required. Okay, if you have someone on your team who knows how to use these systems and you can actually build what you need in them, great, use them. If that's your best thing and it's going to get you the integrations you need, well, I love HubSpot. I love the Operations Hub. I love all these solutions. Do what's going to work for your organization. Sustainability is going to be pretty similar across all of these tools. I would say that, each tool is going to have its opportunity to raise prices in a way that might surprise you. Each tool is going to have authentication updated. If the app that is integrated changes its authentication, all of them are going to help you to troubleshoot. So sustainability really depends on your organization. Do you already use this tool, right? Or do you have another tool and another skill set in your company, right? Maybe nobody knows Zapier, but you have a full stack developer and you have AWS Fargate already. Well, then, maybe the iPaaS is not going to be the solution. Capability, just remembering that if we don't already have the application built, like connected to those tools, you're going to either have to use one that allows you to connect new tools, or you're going to have to use a tool that's connected or go into a more custom solution, okay? And then the complexity of your integration, there are limits, all right? And some of it gets really advanced. So while, for example, Zapier may not have a limit, the way that you can interact with data through tables in Zapier might start moving into more of a developer type of skill, right? And so that's when an iPaaS might not be right for you. All right, so now that and any questions you have about, iPaaSes or anything there, I see lots of great comments and information being shared in the chat. I love it. I love to see everybody helping each other out and sharing about integrations. Super exciting stuff. Okay, I'm going to keep moving so we have time for questions. All right, so we have another poll. Have you built a custom integration using a server-based solution or a PaaS solution? So a PaaS solution would be like Heroku, okay? And so when we're building a custom integration using API and server-based data manipulation, the way that this works, you can see the graphics on the slide here. So this is a basic AWS Fargate file structure, right? So you're actually controlling the file structure and they're giving you some foundation or boilerplate, and then you build on top of that. Similarly, on the right for cPanel, PHP, that's what, up until the last few years, most of us were using as far as the servers that we were deploying for websites and other functionality. Now a lot more people are using cloud servers, but if you're using cPanel, PHP, again, there's boilerplate, and then you build on the file structure. So you're controlling the file structure. You're manipulating the data using PHP if you're in cPanel, using Node.js if you're in Fargate, and some of the other options out there, okay? And so these options are super scalable and flexible. So I'm going to go ahead and we have another poll we have here. Which server-based solution have you worked with before for custom integrations? If you worked with one, okay? But now let's go through the same evaluation criteria when we're talking about working with a server-based solution, okay? So how they work, I just explained that to you. So cost drivers, we're going to be releasing this. All right, this is going to be coming soon. So raise your hand if you want this amazing pricing table that we're working on. But we are working on a pricing table to help you analyze all of the different pricing for all of the different integration options. And then we're also going to be working on a calculator to help you figure out, based on your integration requirements, what's going to be your best cost option, okay? So that is in the works, but if you attend this webinar, we'll make sure to send that to you when it is done, okay? But cost drivers are complex. So when you think about it, so you need to get the server environment. Sometimes you'll have to add on tools to that server environment and opt into different subscriptions so that you can get the ability to manipulate the code, right? And then your server is going to have pricing for anyone who's procured a server, right? It's going to be based on total memory, working memory, the speed of our servers, right? All of this is going to come into play. And some of them are going to be based on our usage, right? The amount of computing we're doing. We all know that, for example, the cost of things like Bitcoin, because of the amount of computing that goes on, it's super expensive to run those servers, right? And so depending on how complex your integrations are, how often they run, how much data they're sharing, how frequently, this is going to drive your pricing. Skills required, right? So this goes into tool ownership as well. If you already have somebody who is awesome in cPanel and PHP and knows how to do all of this, and they can do all of your integration, and you're getting the efficiency you want, and they're working the way you want them to, then that's awesome, right? If you already have AWS Fargate, you have someone who writes Node.js, they have the time and availability to do it, awesome. Sustainability, it's a very sustainable solution. Like I said, pricing can change, certain things about the environments can change, but usually massive updates aren't going to happen too frequently, right? Like we had it last year when HubSpot sunsetted their API key for private apps, right? So then we had to make some changes to our custom integrations when that happened. Current tool ownership, I already covered. Capability, I covered. But the complexity of your integration, right? Does it make sense for your integration to only be done in PHP, right? Or if it needs to be done in multiple languages and have different components, maybe you use a PaaS solution where you can introduce more coding languages. Of course, there are modules to add on to all sorts of servers to use different coding languages as well, right? So when you're looking at this, it really has to do with the skills you have internally, agencies you're already working with, the people that you're reviewing, the cost of the server. Do you have other usage for procuring another server or a dedicated server, or is it only for one small integration where another tool may make sense? Okay. Now let's go into the Operations Hub. This is one we all know and love. All right. So as we jump into this one, Karen, if I missed one of the polls, please go ahead and share that. I think we already have the one for the server-based solutions, but if there are any I missed, please share them. And I can see that we have one person who's worked with Cloud Solution, 3 people who have worked with cPanel or hard disk for custom integrations. Awesome to hear that. All right. So what are the benefits of working with Operations Hub and how does it work? So Operations Hub works in 2 different ways when it comes to your custom integrations. And when you have Operations Hub, your native integrations are easier because you get more control in the data syncing tool, right? So we have that's available, but let's talk about the custom integrations, right? We can deploy webhooks, we can deploy custom coded workflows and deploy JavaScript or Node.js and Python. Using CRM development, we can deploy PHP. Okay, we can develop the entire environment inside of a custom coded workflow for a very simple integration. And we can use all of the formatting and custom code to do some really complex things when it comes to sharing and associating data to drive functionality and automation. We can use CRM development to further the capability and complexity of our integrations. So that's what we get when we have the Operations Hub. And what makes it a good choice is that it keeps everything inside of HubSpot, okay? So, and I see that a few of us here have Operations Hub Enterprise, Operations Hub Pro. There is a new poll. So we have a poll over here. Do you have Operations Hub? Would love to see who is working with Operations Hub and who is not. But it gives you a lot, right? And so the fact that we can do so much directly in the workflow tool, and this is powerful if your team is familiar with HubSpot, familiar with the workflow tool, and knows how to code, they're going to be able to make very scalable, easy to edit, easy to maintain and manage custom integrations very quickly, right? And the pricing is very reasonable as well. So let's go ahead and talk about what makes Operations Hub a good option or not so good of an option, depending on your team, on your tech, right? So like I said, the way it works, we can build integrations directly in the custom coded workflows, or we can have more complex integrations using CRM development with custom coded actions and other actions that are released in workflow like webhook-based actions that come with Operations Hub Pro or above, okay? Operations Hub Pro starts at $800 a month. And so when we think about the cost drivers, HubSpot's Operations Hub works with API limits, right? And so when you're developing and designing your custom coded action, you have to consider those limits, right? And so that means if you're doing a whole bunch of historical data, for example, you may need to run a cron job and have pagination because you're limited on the amount of data you could pass through the HubSpot API at one time. So the way that it works, right, is based on how much data you can pass in one call, how many calls you can make per minute, per hour, and then per day. So that's how HubSpot is going to bill you. And so again, we need to know more. We need to know about your integrations, how many API calls, how frequently they're going to run to figure out if HubSpot is an economical option. When it comes to the skills required, somebody's going to need to know their way around HubSpot a little bit, but they're also going to need to know how to code in Node.js, Python, PHP. You can use any of those languages, but knowing Node.js is very helpful for working in HubSpot's Operations Hub. Sustainability is really around, Operations Hub. You could use it as a standalone tool, even if you are not using HubSpot for everything else. You could still use it as that integration system. So, but you do need to think about that, right? Like, where is your organization at? And I always, again, want to vote the yes to HubSpot. But if your organization isn't super committed to it, yes, again, you can use Operations Hub regardless of using HubSpot for your CRM or marketing automation platform or service desk. But it makes a lot more sense if you have a team that's super familiar with HubSpot and a lot of your integrations are HubSpot focused. And HubSpot serves as somewhat of a central repository for your information. Current tool ownership. So we covered that. Do you already have the Operations Hub? That makes it if you already have the Operations Hub and you need a custom integration, I would highly recommend seeing if it fits within your API call limit so that you can build it using a tool that you already have. Complexity of your integration can handle just as much complexity. The only difference really in what it can handle when we're comparing it to a server-based solution is that server-based solutions are going to allow you to control environment and code within the same interface. And in HubSpot, they're in two different places. So just as you're working back and forth, of course, most of us work with two, if not 3 or 4 screens. And so that's not a problem. We could just have 2 browsers open, but just something to note. So some other things, like I'm just going to cover this real quick. Other Operations Hub features and benefits, right? So we have custom coded workflows. We can trigger workflows based on webhooks and roll into other workflows. We have scheduled workflows for repetitive tasks, right? Those are things that end users can use, even if they're not a developer. So I would love to know if you have Operations Hub. We have another poll. What tools are you currently using? But yeah, those who are like someone like myself, I am not a full stack developer. I do not write in Python or Node.js or PHP, but I can schedule workflows and come up with really cool solutions based on scheduling workflows. I can use deduplication. I can use data sets. I can use the data control center. I can format data, right? Like I can do some formatting. So again, this is a tool that you can use both with your team who is more technical and in the developer category and with your team who is not. Okay, I am a minute longer than I wanted to be, but now we're going to have time for some questions, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just very quickly, while I'm going to just open these up. So for anyone who hasn't seen these before, you can take a look at what these look like, right? So some of our custom coded actions, we're actually just developing all of this code right here inside of HubSpot, okay? Data quality, we can see all of our records that have data issues. So we get this, and then we also get, obviously we can all manage duplicates, but with Ops Hub Pro and higher, you can actually manage your duplicates automatically. And I see that a couple of you are doing that, which is fantastic. Okay, so now it is time to answer some questions. So I see that we already have some. So let's see any questions that we have highlighted as questions. I'm going through this here, but we have the one I highlighted. So, all right, let's see some questions. Okay, so I see that Basho has shared some information here. But does anybody have any questions about an integration that you might be working on, or how we go about evaluating for the customers that we work with, what platform is going to be best for their custom integration? Any integration that you've done that you have found were easy with another platform over another one? Would love to hear any questions or comments that anybody has right now. We can also go ahead and share the ebook. So y'all bear with me. This is my first time in a while running a webinar on Demio. And so here is the ebook that I've been promising you. It's in the handout section to the right, Building Custom Integrations in HubSpot. It is a written version of the content that I covered on how you can evaluate the different options and how they work. And so we have that, but let's go ahead and see here. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? I mean, otherwise we can all get some time back in our day. I see that we have one hand raised, but I think this is from a question earlier. But yeah, let's see. I don't see any questions coming through. Oh, wait, here we go. We have, nope, not there. So if we don't have any questions, y'all, I appreciate you being here. Would love, last poll question that we have then. Let me go ahead and jump on through here. So the last poll question that we have is, let me go back here, is really just around whether this webinar helped you to understand custom integrations more with HubSpot. And so we have our last poll. We'll go ahead and share that. And then you can go ahead right here. There's a QR code. If you want to book a meeting to talk about a custom integration, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. And we would love to talk to you and hear the questions that you have and help you in whatever way that we can. And then if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, Karen Nichols is going to go ahead and share my LinkedIn profile here. So if we haven't connected before, please go ahead and connect with me. But I would imagine a lot of you I'm probably connected with already. But otherwise, I appreciate y'all giving me feedback. I appreciate all of you attending. And I'm going to go ahead and actually go off of Spotlight so I can be a real human and not just a slide deck for the last couple of minutes here. But
yeah. When they can see John did ask a question now. Does HubSpot come out of the box with communication segmentation? Yeah, you can answer to that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Basho. Oh, Basho, did you want to answer,
Yeah.
or I can? Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Yeah, you can answer. Yeah. So because John is trying to. Yeah, he's trying to purchase like a CRM or something like that. So now he's checking different kind of CRM that he can use. I did share with him also some of the great stuff that he can use with HubSpot. So HubSpot is all in one tools. So they have marketing hub, they have sales hub, service hub, customer support system, and also the nice thing is the operations hub. So with operations hub is where now you bring all your data in one central place, in one central CRM. And then it's going to help you with different kind of workflow. It's going to help you with different kind of segmentation as well. Yeah, so they have like great stuff. And they're giving us almost like 3 ways of doing integration. So we have CMS serverless integration. We have CRM development integrations. And then after that, we have the operations hub integrations where you, with your workflow, with your automation and stuff like that, you can add some JavaScript code or you can add Python code as well. But also you can come on stage if you want, John. So that's, if you want to clarify again, your question, or if you need more explanation.
And as far as like one of the questions too, yeah. So John, definitely, I'm going to go ahead and invite you on stage if you want to come on stage. But one thing that I would say is that when it comes to communication segmentation, so that's a super exciting topic, and like integrations can help you to do that. It can help you to do that more, right? And so, for example, right, like we work with political action funds and nonprofits, right? And so let's say you want to segment your communication just based on whether someone's opening emails or not, or whether they're clicking on ads or not, or engaging in your social media posts. Like some of that is out of the box, but a lot of it is really easy to set up with workflows. And so the ways that you can automate your segmentation, like it can be based on data that's just natively in HubSpot. But then when we have integrations, like for example, New Mode is a tool used by political action funds. So now if we bring that data in, now we can segment people additionally based on whether they're taking actions or not within the community related to that fund's goals, right? And so there's lots of really cool out-of-the-box segmentation, but then when we integrate other tools, same thing with like ABM, same thing with like data enrichment, right? Like we can bring in data enrichment. We can see companies that are showing intent to buy. We can use that in our segmentation and sync it with our ad targeting. And all of that can come in. Some of it is out of the box, and some of it is just building workflows, and then some of it's native integrations, and some of it can be custom integrations. So it could be a little bit of all of it. But does that answer your question, or do you have other questions, John?
Yeah, John is having trouble with the camera, but he can speak. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, John.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
There we go. Yep,
yes,
I can hear you.
Okay, I guess this can be audio only. So we're not on HubSpot yet, and we're looking at we're defined as sort of a SaaS provider. So, I had a chance to attend a conference done by Twilio and, a little bit more about, the segmentation capabilities with Twilio and SMS, MMS, and we're kind of shooting for where the hockey puck's going to end up, not where it is right now, as the famous hockey player said. And so, we want to get into really high conversion, type marketing, and combine with a good CRM. And if we can load a communications component in with that, MMS with SMS, and we feel that's going to be a powerful combination for us. And if we can get it all done at a reasonable cost, and get our sort of customized needs fulfilled there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. And so I think this would fall in the native integration. And I definitely think it would be great for you to, we can chat and sorry, outside my office, I know there was just someone very loud that drove by. So sorry if that came through, but it would be great to have a conversation to understand it more, but high level. Twilio is awesome. It integrates well. And between Twilio, HubSpot also is rolling out a native bulk SMS. And I think it will also be for sending media as well. So I think that's rolling out right now. And so we could explore the different options, but basically with the integrations that work with HubSpot, you can do so much with text targeting. And so you can do things like ask people to respond with a certain number. When that comes in, you segment them based on whether they answered or not, how often they answer that. Or you can even, like, they answer this, we send them another text that says that, right? So like all of that can be built in, and then you can report on all of that, see where you're being effective, make adjustments. And so HubSpot really is a great tool. And that would, if you're starting with native integrations, like the Operations Hub Starter is really what would be needed with, like, the CRM tool and the marketing automation tool. But it is quite powerful to provide those channels, and it does offer really great segmentation capabilities.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And also,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna just add also for you there. So with that integration, so HubSpot has also a lot of features when you integrate with Twilio. So it can give you like SMS campaign based on HubSpot list, behavioral trigger. So we have behavioral trigger in HubSpot, and also you can with your integration of Twilio, you can do things like event reminder, feedback service, personalized SMS segmentation based on SMS integration, and also you can do custom Twilio functions that they can connect with HubSpot. So whatever you want, kind of like that personalization data with your CRM and Twilio. Yeah. So, and also we have that support and ticketing system, so they can also integrate with Twilio nicely.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, Twilio has pretty robust capabilities there as far as customizing the API, and they have great tools there that can really help with that integration. And so I guess the question would be figuring out how to write that API and commensurate with your needs, and
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. Yeah, John. No, that's something we can definitely talk about, though, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because I think that's a great Twilio has a lot of awesome capabilities, and I'd be excited to talk about it more. But thank you for coming up and asking. I appreciate that. And then with that, we have about 2 minutes left. So a couple recommendations I'll leave with you is, if you want to get your integrations done, find some champions, put together a game plan, put together a diagram. Okay. When you're looking to get buy-in, if that's what you need to do to get the budget to get this done internally, externally, whatever it is, if you can build the picture of how you're going to do it, the tools you're going to use, what those tools are going to cost, like showing what it's going to do to show that you have put the planning and thought into it, I think that'll be really helpful in winning winning budget and winning buy-in, and of course, figuring out what some of the ROI is going to be. It's really easy to figure out, like, how long does it take? For example, we worked with an organization that was manually sending a total of 5 to 10 emails to 20,000 people every 3 months, right? So when we took the average amount of time for their emails, it took some API work to automate between their custom system and HubSpot. But by completing those automations, we're talking about saving tens of thousands of hours of time, right? And so the cost of that, what other people can be doing, opportunity cost, like, definitely put together your whole case, and that'll help you to get there. But I really appreciate everyone being here. This was super fun. Please feel free to send us messages on LinkedIn about other content you want to see and hear. We're going to be doing webinars on a monthly basis. And any of you, if you want to raise your hand in the chat, if you would like to join a webinar that goes way deeper down in the weeds with Basho, who like knows how to do all of these things, then please raise your hand and let us know, because we'd love to invite you when that is prepared, and you can hear from the super expert himself. But thank you for being here. Have a great day. It was great to see everybody, and I hope that you enjoyed.